या बट रिकॉर्डिंग पॉज था ना। हेलो, गुड इवनिंग, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल। आप सबको फिर से स्वागत है बुध डेफिनेटली संडे को शाम को 4 बजे। और जो हमारी सीरीज है बी काइंड टू योर माइंड सीरीज चलती रहेंगी इंशाल्लाह। दिसंबर तक तो पूरा हमारा प्लान बना हुआ है और हम आपसे हर संडे को शाम को 4 बजे मिलते रहेंगे। एक और बहुत अच्छी हमारे को आपको बताना कि हमारा जो पार्टिसिपेशन रहा कैंपेन के अंदर 250 के करीब एंट्रीज हमारे पास आई हैं। और नवंबर के महीने में क्योंकि हम शुरुआत करेंगे बच्चों के साथ, और तो नेक्स्ट संडे को हम लोग रिजिलियंस सीखेंगे बच्चों से, और वो भी 11 साल से नीचे छोटे बच्चे जो पैनलिस्ट बनने के लिए तैयार हैं। एंड दे आर गोइंग टू टीच अस कि हम लोग कैसे रिलीजियन सीखे, वो भी इस कोविड के टाइम पर उन्होंने अपने जो देखभाल कैसे करी और खुद आगे कैसे बढ़ पाए। आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है, दोनों जने जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट हैं, अश्विनी भावे वो एक करियर काउंसलर है, और रेणुका धर जो बहुत सारे स्कूल्स को भी संभालती हैं और खुद भी एक टीचर भी रह चुकी हैं, सुपरवाइजर भी हैं, और फिलहाल कम से कम 20-25 स्कूल्स को सबको गाइड करती हैं। तो उनके साथ हम ये सीखेंगे और समझेंगे कि कितनी ज्यादा जरूरी है काउंसलिंग स्कूल के अंदर। और ध्यान ये भी रखना है कि सीबीएसई का नया एक मेंटल हेल्थ चैप्टर खुला है, जिसमें उन्होंने काफी सारी चीजें एज अ कम्युनिटी बोला है। तो मेंटल हेल्थ को हम आइसोलेशन में नहीं ले सकते, इसको हमें कम्युनिटी में लेना है। तो उसी के साथ हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। और जो मेरा पहला सवाल है जो है वो मेरा पहला सवाल जाएगा अश्विनी को। मुझे बताएं अश्विनी, डू यू थिंक कि अर्ली एज जो गाइडेंस मिलनी चाहिए बच्चों को, उससे फायदा होता है?
Sabi, early age is also, guidance in terms of counseling or in terms of somebody who is there to listen to you, so that you get a platform to express your concerns or the situations that you're going through is extremely important. I'm just going to take 2 minutes. If you look at the way our society is changing, we've already moved into a nuclear setup. And
Yes.
Children are extremely lonely. They have 2 working parents, and we can't do anything with that. It is either with choice or because of some responsibility, but they don't have enough people to talk with around them. And technology is there. They're using technology. I mean, I have so many children calling up from a landline or this thing because they wanted to talk in the building itself. नहीं गलती से wrong number लग गया. So when you start talking, you realize it was not गलती. They just wanted to talk to somebody, and now it's been replaced with social media. And therefore, it's extremely important that they have somebody live with them who can they can talk to. They can express what they are going through, so that they don't get swayed away with on media. You don't know who's talking to you really on social media. So people don't get carried away with any other person who will misuse them. So it's important that and loneliness is actually a problem with children. So if they have a career, any counselor in school, it will be extremely beneficial because they get a platform that they at least can share. They will have somebody that they can trust, they can talk to, they can feel free, they feel secured, and that's important. I think that's extremely important in today's.
आपकी बात से मुझे अपना व्हेन आई वाज रेजिंग माय सन, मेरे को वो बात याद आ गई कि वो काफी जैसे ट्यूशन पे जाते थे या कुछ, तो वो अपनी इंग्लिश ट्यूशन टीचर के साथ पहले 15-20 मिनट सिर्फ बातचीत ही करते थे. only talking. Of course I was not available, I was a full time mom, and अगर मेरे से कोई जरूरत भी होती थी तो सिर्फ फोन के लिए कि आज मेरे स्कूल में ये हुआ और मैं आप घर आओगे तब बात करूंगा. He was never interested to speak on the phone. He always wanted to speak, face to face. So definitely ये बहुत अच्छी आपने बात जो है बाहर लेकर आए आप. और हमारी पेरेंट्स को ये दरख्वास्त है सबसे पहले विमेन को, प्लीज डू नॉट फील गिल्टी अबाउट वर्किंग. अश्विनी का कहीं से भी कहने का मतलब नहीं है, हम तीनों औरतें जो यहाँ पर हैं, वी लव टू वर्क, वी आर बेटर पीपल बिकॉज वी आर वर्किंग मदर्स. सो कहीं भी कहने का मतलब नहीं है कि आपको जॉब छोड़ के घर पे बैठना है. वी जस्ट हैव टू क्रिएट अ सिस्टम विच इज ऑल्सो कॉम्प्लीमेंटिंग आवर चिल्ड्रन. तो उसी के साथ जो हम आगे बढ़ते हैं रेणुका के पास। रेणुका, आप बहुत सारे स्कूल्स के साथ जुड़ी हुई हैं और मैं पर्सनली भी आपको जानती हूँ। बहुत सारे बच्चे आपसे ढेर सारी बातें करते हैं, तो क्या वो बातें करते हैं वेदर सीबीएसई काउंसलर रहे ना रहे, बट यू हैव ऑलवेज बीन अ काइंड ऑफ काउंसलर टू द किड्स। तो किस तरह की वो बातें करते हैं और कैसे आपको लगा कि आप काफी सारी चीजें आराम से सुलझा पाती हैं स्कूल में जब बातें होती हैं? आप अपने आप
Yeah,
को, यस
yeah.
यस यस,
Chavi, you asked me two things. One is whether a counselor is required in the schools. क्या school में होना चाहिए? Yes, I feel every school, big or small, whether just they've just started newly, just 1 year or 2 year old school also should start having a counselor, because we have kids which come from different backgrounds. As what Ashwini said, that most of the parents are working, they're nuclear families, so they need somebody to talk to. Now with when children would come physically to school, so what was happening, they were interacting with everybody, right? Even a loner child, if he didn't feel comfortable with the he or she doesn't feel comfortable with anybody, the teacher or somebody, so this counselor could connect with him, and he or she would can pour out with him. As far as you asking me as a teacher when I started and children connected, yes, this is true. That though I'm not a counselor,
yes,
but as a teacher, through my subject, English and social sciences, which I taught, I connected with students, because I always feel, though even I raised in my, then I, like kind of in the school, you became a headmistress and all that, fine. But you can't forget that at the end, you're a teacher and you need to connect. What is the reason why we connect with students is, as a teacher, you understand, a subject teacher or a class teacher, you understand how your students are, right? And over a period, if you see, when you get connected with students, when you're teaching in class, you know what each one's family background is, and he or she is going through. At times, children do not tell you that, but then you have to be on a very close monitoring thing. There is a sign always by a child, whether primary or senior, he throws at you that he wants to talk or she wants to talk to you. So there is, they either they would not perform very well, or when they're sitting in the class, physically present, mentally not. And as a teacher, you can gauge that there is some gap is there, something has gone wrong.
yeah.
So you connect with that student. Like I had a student whose parents were going through financial crisis, right? And I observed that whenever there used to be a break in the school, he would be in the class and everybody would come out and he would never come out. So this happened for 2 3 days, and then I shared with his class teacher that there is something miss. So I started pretending that let's share lunch, and I've got something. It's too much for me to eat or something, and I connected. So this was one of my first experience with a primary child, and he then connected, saying that the family was going through a bad phase, and he was really from a very elite family, but because of the financial crisis, this happened. So you have to connect that way. There is a connect. But yes, as I feel, even teachers can become counselors. It's not necessary that you do a course, but yes, if a person has done a course, it really helps, because not everybody will have that kind of EQ to touch with a child. So if a counselor is there, because he or she knows the proper process. See, I could help the child maybe EQ wise, sometime, but what she or he could do it, if it's a special child, probably I would not be able to handle. Or there would be children which needed more of, help. So there I would not fit in. But yes, where those little gaps would be there, I think each teacher can, take up this small, work of connecting with the student, becoming like a counselor. Yeah.
बहुत आपने बहुत सही बात बोली कि बातचीत चलती रहे, जिससे कि जो भी कुछ इश्यूज हैं वो खुलते रहे और पीछे हटते रहे। बेसिकली जो हमें अश्विनी ने भी समझाया कि बातचीत रहे, जिससे कि कुछ भी है तो वो साथ साथ बाहर निकल आए। ये बहुत बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट बात है। यकीनन हम सब लोग काउंसलर्स नहीं है, सिर्फ अश्विनी यहाँ पे काउंसलर है, लेकिन बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस इन टॉकिंग वी कैन जस्ट एड. We are not a solution, but we can aid to whatever the child is going through because of sheer experience and also because of being mothers. Also because of. और दूसरा मुझे यहाँ पे जो रेणुका से हमें पता चला, जैसे रेणुका ने वो एग्जाम्पल दिया कि she wanted to go and speak to the student. So हमें उस तरह की ट्रेनिंग, उस तरह के एग्जाम्पल्स खुद देने पड़ेंगे जिससे टीचर्स इनहिबिशन ना फील करें. सो टीचर्स को भी थोड़ा सा और खुलना पड़ेगा अपने स्टूडेंट्स के साथ, so that that line of draw, that line is a little bit thin, of course with a distance, with one arm distance, keeping in mind the respect and hierarchy of a teacher and a child, keeping that in mind, थोड़ा सा steps हम teachers को भी आगे लेने पड़ेंगे. उसी के साथ हम आगे बढ़ते हैं. अश्विनी, आपके पास फिर से वापस आते हैं. सो एथिकल कंसर्न्स जो हैं आजकल करंट एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम और ट्रेनिंग में, वो क्या है? ऑफ कोर्स नई पॉलिसी आई है, उस पर काफी बातचीत हो रही है, इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम्स की बातचीत हो रही है, बट ये सब कुछ होगा कैसे? हाउ इट विल ऑल इंटरकनेक्ट? क्योंकि एज अ सोसाइटी वी आर स्टिल वेरी जजमेंटल अबाउट स्पेशल नीड्स चिल्ड्रन. सो हम कैसे बच्चों को लेकर आएंगे और उनके ऊपर कैसे, ये नहीं हो कि हम लेकर आए और आपत्ति ले आए उन बच्चों की मेंटल हेल्थ के ऊपर. तो वो भी मुझे आपसे बात करनी थी.
See, it's a good initiative that you want to create an inclusive environment.
Right.
But that's not happening if you don't talk about it. It is a huge change that you're asking for. The thought is extremely good, but it is not as simple as a thought. It needs a lot of education. It will need an education from the school to the teachers. It will need an education with all the students and the parents. बिकॉज जिनके घर में स्पेशल नीड का बच्चा है उनको तो पता ही है कि व्हाट इट टेक्स for them to make sure that they have a normal upbringing. In the sense, for them it's a new normal, but उनके लिए जो normal है. But to include that person, which means that everybody, all the stakeholders, whether the teacher, the students studying, the parents of the whole class, have to be sensitive that you will have somebody who is different in the class. And there might be some changes because a lot of parents don't want their own child to mingle with the other special need child.
In fact, issue जो नहीं, in fact I was at one of the
Chavi or
yeah, Chavi, your voice is not audible.
Okay, I was thinking it's only me. Chavi,
I think there's a network concern.
I think we'll just take a minute. She'll come back. Should I call her?
I'm also trying her number.
Oh, she's dropped out, so she'll join.
Yeah.
Well, now you're the host.
So I know, I just thought, yeah, she's connecting back.
Okay.
Connecting back, yes. तो उसके लिए आप मुझे बताएंगे अश्विनी जो एथिकल कंसर्न्स है, बिकॉज जो स्पेशल नीड्स के चिल्ड्रन है उनके साथ कुछ मिसबिहेवियर और मिसकंडक्ट भी नहीं हो, हम ये भी चाहते हैं. तो क्या ऐसी चीजें स्कूल करे कि ये छोटा छोटा वन बेबी स्टेप इम्प्लीमेंट हो जाए?
So my first big thing is that ethical, I mean, they can be abused in a way, they can be bullied in a way, but this can all stop if you start talking about inclusion. हमारे यहाँ तो we talk about a black and white child, a person who's gora in the school and person who is saula. हमारे तो forget the special need. A normal child is discriminated through their color, their height, girl or boy, caste, whatever. And now you want somebody who is not normal, like who's not like you, want you to fit into this thing. I mean, if we are already not been able to kind of let go of all these and have a society which is more inclusive, and then you are expecting people to be okay with this. I think we have to be realistic. There will be issues when this happens. The only thing that you will have to do is you will have to constantly talk to children because children adapt very beautifully. I mean, parents की उम्र निकल गई है. They have got them into one box. Now asking them to change, it's a humongous task. And I don't know how many people will have the patience to even look at them. But children, if you can talk to them, if you can talk about different issues and different challenges, solutions bhi bachon se mil jayegi rather than we providing solutions, because we are in a generation which we have not dealt with. So our solutions can be textbook. Our solutions can be based on our own perceptions. But children can give you real solutions, because they are dealing in the class.
Right.
And they will come out with beautiful solutions which are practical also. So
इनफैक्ट हम लोग जो है दिसंबर के महीने में, आपको दोनों को बहुत जान की खुशी होगी, पूरा मंथ हम डेडिकेट कर रहे हैं स्पेशल नीड्स चिल्ड्रन के लिए। और ज्योत्सना जो हमारी एडवाइजर है वो भी हमारे साथ ज्वाइन करेंगी इसके लिए, और उम्मीद है कि कुछ प्रोग्राम्स के अंदर डॉक्टर नागपाल भी ज्वाइन करेंगे। तो अपनी तरफ से कोशिश जारी है, और हमारी आप सब लोगों की सपोर्ट से जारी हम लोग रखते रहेंगे कि किस तरह से भी हम इंक्लूजन को और पार्ट बनाएं। उसी के साथ हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। रेणुका, आपके पास फिर से आते हैं। what do we, how can we address the need and lack of counselors in our school system? Of course हमारा डिस्कशन हो गया है कि काउंसलर्स कम है, काउंसलर्स को डबल रोल दे दिया जाता है, उनको साइकोलॉजी भी पढ़ाना है, स्टूडेंट्स को भी काउंसिल करना है और टीचर्स को भी काउंसिल करना है। तो किस तरह से उसको डील किया जा सकता है? कुछ आपके पास सोल्यूशन है, बिकॉज आप इतने स्कूल्स को देख रहे हैं, तो कुछ आप सजेशंस दे सकते हैं कि कैसे किया जा सकता है?
एक तो first of all, you know what, see now initially we didn't have any specialized courses. Now we do have specialized courses for counseling. So, you know, if schools get connected with those colleges where these courses are done, then what happens, even as an internship, those children who are, you know, coming out of the school, you know, you must be having a senior counselor, and she, you know, can send her students one or two to each school. And because we do not keep too many, depending on the strength of the school, we have the number of counselors. So luckily, you know, this, we have it as a rule now that every school under CBSE has to have a counselor. So if schools get connected to these colleges, where are good colleges where, you know, get trained, so, you know, it will benefit the students, and it should be like it'll be like a practical training. See, for a counselor, it's not just theory, it has to be practical. And she or he then specializes whether what kind of, suppose wants a counselor with a special needs children, or children, you know, who are having just behavioral issues. So they have so many streams to it. I'm sure Ashwini ma'am must be agreeing that there are many streams. So yeah, they can, you know, keep those kind of counselors which is required in their school. If they have a number of special children are more, and, you know, you need to cater there. So that kind of a counselor could be. And what, as Ashwini ma'am was saying, very true, that we do need, you know, counselors should be there in schools. And first of all, our parents have to understand, you know, that if your child is studying with a special needs child, and how it works, you know, they have to understand, they have to have that open-mindedness. So that open-mindedness has to come. Of course, I think at least 5% of India or 10% is with RTE. We have changed this system, that, you know, they are agreeing to it, that okay, this is going to happen. But my only challenge is now, when we have these COVID, the pandemic is happening, and physically children are not coming to school, and everything is virtual. So the problem will be like, how do we, you know, bridge that gap, because there's no counselor there, and children who are at home would definitely be more, you know, they will have a lot of behavioral issues when they come to school, because see, they have been with their parents, and with each parent dealing it differently. Some saying not to go out of the house, some, you know, trying to limit them doing their particular activities. So each one, so all these children would come if, when the schools reopen in the month of March, hopefully, for primary and middle school. Of course, seniors, some places they've started. There will be a need where the child will definitely need to connect with the counselors to share out what were the issues he or she faced being in the house with the parents itself during the pandemic in the house. So this, you know, is so I feel, one, that school should connect with the colleges, and we should have institutes where, you know, even teachers can be trained a little bit, so that, you know, it bridges a gap. There shouldn't be a very vast gap. You know, yeah, even they need so that will bridge, because not the counselor cannot maybe cater to all the children, and we'll have limited. So then teachers could be trained by the counselors how to handle in these cases. Yeah.
So you are recommending that there should be some bridging course, and also the recommendation that, you know, the children who are taking counseling, they're taking training, they should come weekly.
Even even the owners of the school is started by any organ, whether it is government, whether it's private. Those people also should be sensitized with the fact of how, you know, what is basically, why do they need to have counselors? And then if they're admitting special children, they need to understand. Sometimes even principals do not get to know, but there are some principals who are very, very well aware about it. So we have every different kind of leadership.
डेफिनेटली, और इस तरह के हम कुछ स्टेप्स लेंगे. तो अश्विनी, आपसे ये मेरा सवाल है, क्योंकि आई एम वेरी कंसर्न, पर्सनली आई एम वेरी कंसर्न अबाउट स्टूडेंट्स एंड चिल्ड्रन टेकिंग देयर लाइफ without in the act of suicide or something. और पिछले जो हमारे आंकड़े बहुत ही डिप्रेसिंग आंकड़े हैं, तो probably हमारी ये जो छोटे छोटे इनिशिएटिव्स हैं, ये कैसे हेल्प कर सकते हैं. मैं इसलिए आपसे चाह रही हूँ कि आप इसको एक्सप्लेन करें, जिससे कि पेरेंट्स भी इसकी इंपॉर्टेंस समझें कि कितनी ज्यादा अहमियत है मेंटल हेल्थ और बात करने की, कि आगे जाके अगर कुछ प्रॉब्लम आने वाली है तो हम उसको कॉम्बैट कर पाए जब बचपन का टाइम.
See, all of us would like the suicide rate to go down for sure. But let's understand in reality, there are two types. One is a chemical depression, in the sense that person's thought may not be in their control and it is just a moment of time. Right? Some of the suicides do happen because there's a lot of stress from the parents, there's a lot of expectation, and they cannot fulfill that expectation. If it targets only saying that the suicides will come down, I think we are not addressing the core issue. The core issue is getting our children to work so hard and give them so much stress, because then they can get into a good college and get a good job. But as parents, we don't know what kind of jobs will also be available to them. So we are shooting in the dark, actually. Because whatever jobs we have been doing, they will not be there anymore. You have seen in the pandemic, half the jobs are gone.
Yes.
Half the companies have closed because those jobs will now not probably exist. So it's a hard reality that we've faced 2020. So it's important for parents to be sure that you educate your child in whatever field, because you don't know what field is going to come up. So as long as your child is liking that particular, they will shine in it. You can't say I am an engineer, my child has to be engineers. Engineering colleges are shutting down because there are not no jobs, engineering jobs that are there. So we have to first focus on having a happy child rather than having a successful child, because it is by nowhere you have a gold medalist person doesn't guarantee that he will be great in the job. So you need to have a happy child. You need to have children having different skills. If you would have seen, I was just seeing yesterday MasterChef, the 9-year, 10-year-old, 11-year-old cooking like, I mean, you will feel ashamed we would not probably know 5%. They're just cooking so beautifully. Now that's a skill. They'll get a job at 15 and they can work. So we have to shift from that mentality and see how do we encourage our child to do best. If that is done, then the child will feel encouraged rather than pressurized. Because in some of my experience, we've called parents to tell that I think your son or your daughter is extremely stressed. You need to do something. And they have like on our face said, it's a life. And they've just banged the phone. What can you do as a third person? You can't do too much about it. So you have to get the talking about it, addressing issues, sharing your views is extremely important. That will change, because addressing, we can't put anybody and say, okay, you have to change. It should come from within. So the more you talk, the more people realize that everybody is in that ship and that they're not specially addressing any of those concerns. Then I think talking will help. And I just also want to add, it's not about working parents that I said earlier. Even a person stay at home, even people who are not working, our own belief system, our own expectations, our own way of thinking, the children their world has changed, and their world has dramatically changed. And they sometimes don't think that the parents understand their point of view. So working parents probably have some better understanding, but if people, one of the parent is not working, a child needs to speak to a third person who is not watching you with a lens. They're just trying to look at you and understand you and hear you out and listen to your side of the story. I think that's important. People now, I mean, children, adults need somebody who can listen to them without anybody making a prejudgment.
Prejudgment.
I think that's more important. If we can as a society achieve that, I think the suicide rate itself will come down, because then you are okay to be you are okay as a person. You may not be the best, but you're good enough.
You're good enough.
That's important.
That's important. रेणुका, मैंने क्यों लिया अभी हमारी आज की चर्चा से, जब हम लोग छोटे थे, स्पेसिफिकली, तो मॉरल साइंस का एक हमारा वंस अ वीक जरूर एक क्लास होता था, एक पीरियड होता था. तो कुछ ऐसा हो सकता है, अंडरस्टैंड सीबीएसई के बहुत करिकुलम है एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ रेगुलेशंस व्हिच हैव टू बी फॉलोड, नॉर्म्स व्हिच हैव टू बी फॉलोड, बट मॉरल साइंस और मेंटल हेल्थ किसी तरह से मिक्स कर नॉट वंस अ वीक बट वंस अ मंथ, कुछ तरह का इंटरेक्शन अगर आप लोग अपने स्कूल में इम्प्लीमेंट कर पाओ, या कुछ सजेशन में चला जाए सीबीएसई को. सो दैट थॉट जस्ट केम जस्ट नाउ. तो आपका इस पे क्या ओपिनियन रहेगा और आप क्या एडवाइस देंगे?
Well, I feel definitely not moral science. I would not say moral science, because when moral science is taught, there are more, I think it all goes off in a flow. So moral, when we say we should have some of these morals, then nobody's going to listen. They try to do everything what is not to be done.
Okay.
Right? So instead of having a moral science, yes, a mental health class, I feel there are some, like, just like we have, once the children are, in the middle section, we have these classes for adolescents, and, compulsory by CBSE. Now you have your, everything under adolescence comes. So I feel mental health should be added, and it should be taken in a very, very light way from the beginning. It should not be just used that, okay, the child comes to the middle school and then, he can have it. We should have mental health concerns and, classes basically, and it could be taken up by the school. If even if CBSE agrees on it, or like if it makes a policy that just like you have your 2 periods of games, in the primary, so we can have it like, okay, once in a week. If the policy is made, very good. If policy is not made, but all schools can have something like a circle time where children can, once in a month, the teacher can talk about mental health in the primary. Then, of course, it can be very, very streamlined, and, using counselors, they can have something from middle section too. So it has to go. And, in sync with these mental health, you can have talks with them. You can have, just like we're having talk shows, we should have talk shows with them. We should have life skill classes for them, which relate to mental health, and talk to children directly, in a very soft way, that this is how you get affected. This is what has happened, and how your decisions should take place. Any situation given, then children could be asked that, okay, if this is a situation, what will you do? So there you come to know how the child is thinking. So once in a month, at least, I feel 1 hour or 2 hours, given over a period of two periods also, it will definitely work. It's going to be very good, in fact.
और
It should be done. Actually, I feel it should be done.
सो दूसरा, चलो अभी ये आपका पॉइंट बहुत वैलिड रहा. दूसरा, क्योंकि हमें पेरेंट्स को बहुत ज्यादा एंगेज करना है और उनको समझाना है, तो क्या ये पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकती है कि जब पेरेंट टीचर्स मीटिंग होती है, आई नो उस समय सब पेरेंट को अपने बच्चे के बारे में जानना है, तो इज इट पॉसिबल, बिकॉज बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स आ भी नहीं पाते हैं, तो कुछ इस तरह से हो जाए कि वेबिनार के थ्रू ही हम पेरेंट्स के साथ इंटरेक्ट करना शुरू कर दें, so
Yes.
that we now, because pandemic has taught us how to do be on webinar and be online all the time, so maybe हम पेरेंट्स को इस तरह से कनेक्ट कर पाए. तो मान लीजिए एक क्लास में 40 बच्चे हैं, तो अगर 20 भी पेरेंट्स आते हैं, बिकॉज इस चीज को हम कंपलसरी तो नहीं कर सकते, इट कैन बी ओनली अ वॉलंटरी थिंग. तो अगर
Yeah.
इसका कुछ किया जाए, तो उसका वो आप कैसे बताएंगे कि कैसे
Yeah.
implement हो सकता है?
Yeah, Chavi, very good idea actually. If we start like that, even in fact, I would say even 10 students are taken up. Like today we say that, okay, there's 10 students of this particular class have to connect. They can make a small presentation, or just by talking to the parent. Maybe initially that out of those 10, you will have 8 who are not agreeing to the point that why mental health. हमारे बच्चे ठीक है. This is this is the first statement which comes. हम लाइफ ऐसी है, ऐसे ये तो मुश्किलें आएंगी, पर हमने भी किया था, बट टाइम्स आर चेंजिंग, राइट? So we have to put it across to the parents at times that changing these things are a concern. Sort of those 10 parents, you'll have 2 which will get in sync with you. But over a period, slowly, I think the parents will start understanding. And as your idea of having virtually, it is, I think, amazing. It's perfectly fine. This is a very good thing that if you have something virtually and, connect with parents. Because now now the parents are all trained. Actually, I should say. Yeah. And the ones who are not have got trained by their children. So, they learn, there is a learning between the child and the parents. So we will definitely connect on virtually and learn. There will be a lot of learning actually for the parent too.
जी डेफिनेटली। तो आज की हमारी चर्चा से 2-3 चीजें निकल के आई हैं कि किस तरह से हम पेरेंट्स के साथ कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं, किस तरह के बच्चों के साथ कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं और कैसे हम इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं, जैसे रेणुका ने हमारे को समझाया और बताया। तो उसको हम कोशिश करेंगे। रेणुका एज अ फोरम, मेंटल हेल्थ कॉग्निजेंट फोरम इज देयर टू वॉलंटियर विद यू। इन केस आपको कभी कोई काउंसलर कुछ सपोर्ट चाहिए तो वी आर ऑलवेज देयर। डेफिनेटली अश्विनी कैन टेक आउट once in 2 months she can definitely come and share her experience and have a talk. And of course, I can also join whenever you require to ensure that our kids are motivated in these unprecedented times, whether on webinar or live, whatever is possible. तो उसी के साथ हम सब लोग आपसे, आज मैं आप सब लोगों से विदा लेती हूँ और अगले संडे को फिर से मिलेंगे छोटे बच्चों के साथ। 11 साल से कम बच्चे सरप्राइज एलिमेंट है क्योंकि वो हमें सिखाने वाले हैं रेजिलियंस कैसे पैदा करें हम, आप, मैं और हम सब लोग। तो उसी के साथ मैं आप सब लोगों से विदा लेती हूँ। डेफिनेटली हम अगले संडे को जरूर मिलेंगे। बाय बाय, थैंक यू।
Bye, Ashwini, and bye, Chavi.
Hi, Renuka. Thank